creates coming to you with a whole lot of connection, a whole lot of intention, and a whole heck of a lot of purpose. So,
heck yeah. Heck
good day to be alive, man.
Good day to be alive. The art dealer and the art thief.
I got some good stuff, man. I'm excited to share it.
I want to know what you're going to talk about today, dude, because art is, I know we're not supposed to be biased in the three-legged stool, but it's definitely probably my favorite leg.
Same here, bro. Really, truly.
All right, good. So then today's going to be a fire episode then.
Yeah. So I just had kind of something, we were talking about it yesterday, just kind of like what we wanted to go over, how we kind of thought we could add value to just anybody who, everybody's an artist in their own way, shape, or form. But they're like trying to make it, I don't know. Like, I love chiropractic, and that's like my favorite form of art. But obviously, I know everybody that's, if you're a good fighter, you're fighting that good fight. You're not always a chiropractor.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true.
I found some stuff that like I realized in undergrad that really helped me in different areas of my life, kind of become an artist and like really understand that art's it's a multi-dimensional term. So I'm excited to share.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like how you put it up, because in order to be a good fighter in whatever it is that you do, whether it's just everyday life or your profession, you have to have some sort of art, because in your art, you experience emotion, you experience passion, you experience the connection, intention, and purpose I'm talking about. So I love that you brought that in, because, if you don't have art in whatever you do, then you're lacking full life expression.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's really good that you put that in there. And I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that too.
Yeah. Art is a form of self-expression. And, if you're not expressing the self, like, you're suppressing the self. And self-expression, like, you got to be yourself, man. You got to be, if you're expressing yourself, you're loving yourself. And,
fact.
If you're going to be going out there loving on everybody, loving your neighbor, you got to start at home. Start with that internal neighbor,
Yeah. Dang. I love it.
Hell yeah.
We need a fire bell, or like we should get like a fire alarm on here, man. Everybody got something fire.
Yeah, for real. When I'm at the office, I'll just pull the lever.
I like that.
Get my neighbors nice and fired up for the day. Pun intended.
That's awesome. Pun intended. So what we got, art dealer? Deal some of that art to us, my dude.
Art dealer. So one thing I wanted to just like cover. So what is art, right? I thought that'd be a good place to start. So art is the expression of human creative skill and imagination. And when I think imagination, I interpret it as a chiropractor, visualization.
Yeah.
And producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power.
Wow. That's like is that like Webster's? What is that?
Yeah, that's just what I looked up on Google.
Dang. I like that a lot. I think there's a lot in there too. You can break that down big time, especially when you talk about imagination or that visualization that you talked about. That's a huge component in creating art.
Of course.
Right? If you can't create a work of art without having first visualization or imagination. And that's not even just a start. You have to have it during it too, right? Exactly. Like, imagine adjusting a patient and you don't have any visualization except for the first adjustment. Like, you're lacking a whole part, right?
Oh yeah, it's a way to embody what you're doing, and like as a physical art, I think we're some martial arts. Visualization's huge. That's visualization, imagination. So whether you're building bridges or you're painting sculptures, you always have some sort of image in your mind where you're really that you're generating that source of your art from.
Yeah. Are you a good painter?
I'm pretty bad. But the funny thing is, so in undergrad, I took you're always kind of required to do some sort of your major courses, and I took an art course.
Did you really?
And I kept my drawing.
Is there any nude art going on in this one?
What's up?
Any nude art going on in this class?
No, it wasn't.
I feel like that's the stereotypical college, like, whenever you watch a show, you know, like, oh yeah, I just took this art class. There's always a nude art like necessary requirement.
Totally. And I didn't get to that section apparently, but I know it was an option. And I mean,
Oh, it was. Oh shoot.
I don't know. I guess that's
Plot
kind of like
twist: Nash was actually the sculpture, guys.
yeah. I wasn't the model. I was just in there master sculpting. But there's like some sort of stigma with being naked, which
Yeah.
if anybody reads 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson, he kind of talks about that in one of the early chapters about like the fear of being naked
Yeah.
because it makes you vulnerable. And
We talked about that a little bit too, yeah?
yeah, yep.
You shot that to me.
Yeah, so being naked, I mean, shoot, that's like it's a natural thing to be. You're born naked. You essentially you don't die with your clothes. Your clothes aren't part of you. You know what I mean? You die naked. So don't be scared to get naked. But in that class, what I kind of wanted to touch on, at least from what I remembered, so there's this book called How to Steal Like an Artist. And at the time, I was like, oh, that's just like that's an interesting way to have personality as an artist. Yeah, steal like an artist. And there's some points in there, like I kind of like a list of 10 things, and I kind of took out the 5 that really resonated with me that I think really apply to you and me and a lot of people listening to this. So the first one I wrote down is don't wait until you know who you are to get started.
Wow.
And,
so all you chiros, especially that are in first, second, third try, you don't have to have it all figured out to start practicing that art.
Hell yeah. That's like one of the very first steps that is listed.
That's pretty cool.
Don't wait. Like that realization, that self-discovery, that'll come.
Yeah.
So I really like that very first bullet point. And the second one is write the book you want to read. Which
Dang. This is in the art class in college?
Yeah, this is in that art class, bro.
How much were you not paying attention when they said that, and then now you're like, dang.
I was.
I'd kill to have an art class like that,
Same. And at the time, when I started, like typical undergrad mentality, I was like, yeah, I'm taking this art class, kind of showing up, just kind of like, I started off doing the bare minimum, but as I was just like in there, I'm like, well, I might as well just kind of like, have fun with it and like, just like, it is this form of self-expression. So it was just kind of a way for me to kind of like mind dump a little bit. So I actually really started enjoying the class, and there's a reason I kind of kept my notebook from it. So kind of rolling off that point, one of the other principles of the Steal Like an Artist was number 4, use your hands. Using your hands, like
done by hand, baby.
Done by hand, but also whenever you're using these guys, interpreting, taking in that information, kinesthetically, dude, like that's just a whole nother way to visualize and imagine.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say like it just adds a whole nother depth of perception, right? So
yeah, I find it interesting that they don't talk about. I mean, maybe you get this later on, but the eyes, because I think we immediately focus on the eyes being, I guess you could say, the gateway to our art, right? But I find it really interesting that they said the hands, because I never really, like, if you were to show me either a sculpture or a painting or different things like that, I would never think hands first. Even as a chiro, like I would just think automatically eyes first, right?
Sure. I mean, one thing that we always got hammered home was, you're visualizing and you're seeing what you're touching.
Yeah.
So I think there's something where you're just literally interpreting multiple mediums of information of like the same thing, where like obviously visually we're perceiving whoever's in front of us, but also using our hands to match that. It is able to take you to a whole other level. And I think with being an artist, like that's pretty key for successful artists, I think. So
shoot.
Love it. Hey, dude. So I'm gonna let you know ahead of time. I don't know why, but these things are hidden for conversations you and I have had a lot. So this next one, this next one, side projects and hobbies are important. Literally what we talked about this
We were
morning.
just talking about this week.
What'd you say? What hobbies make them, or
Uh,
was it?
Projects make it the man.
Yeah.
It
Projects
was
make it the man. Side projects and hobbies are important. That's my dog. Sorry, Dennis. Featuring.
he wants in on the podcast game, man.
Um. So yeah, I thought that was just like a really good sign that I'm on the right track for what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And then the last point that I wrote down was the secret. The secret is do good work and share it with people.
Mm. Well, the art thief is always going to steal to share with people, man.
Oh yeah. And I'm gonna go over what's
Do
good
good.
thievery and what's bad thievery too. So,
Yeah.
because
Do
like
good work and share with people.
thief, being a thief like has the connotation of being like a completely negative thing, right? Usually.
Right.
Uh, I'll write it. I'll be there. Um. So that's kind of one thing I wanted to make the distinction with is like you can be a good thief, right? Like
Yeah,
Robin Hood was a good thief.
that's true.
So
That's
it's
true.
all about a lot of it's about your intention. So
That intention and purpose is the key within your art.
yep.
Wow. Yeah. I think too, like with those points, that each one that you listed, because the overall theme right there was still this. What's up, Leilani?
Hey, I want you to do me a favor.
We're recording.
Oh, shoot.
It's fine. Go ahead, though.
She's making a preview for episode 5.
Everybody that's Dr. Leilani. Oh, yeah, she's going to be on here in a little bit.
That was a teaser.
Teaser. Hey, I need you to do a favor.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I just didn't want her to say anything too personal there.
Yeah, I don't know what was gonna come out there.
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember my point, but bro, those points were really cool, man. Thank you for sharing those. I think it's really important to recognize the starting point from where your art has to begin. And a lot of that too, just like the first point said, is taking that leap. Right?
Hell yeah, dude. So there's a really cool image from the book that I remember that I had written down. I want to see. I might be able to drop a rough sketch of it just because it's a cool
Yeah.
picture. Yeah, it's right here. So, okay, did you have anything that you went through that you wanted to bring up at the Stargates?
Not necessarily the start. I think the biggest thing is just you pretty much hit it on the head with talking about those points. Is you don't have to be a good artist, but taking the leap is the biggest part because I've never been, artistically inclined, whether it's in voice or drawing. I had one moment of fame actually, one moment of fame, and this was
I
in
want to
my
hear
high
it.
school. High school art class. I painted like this beautiful waterfall, right? And people were around me. They were so surprised. They're like, "Where did that come from?" And honestly, I couldn't tell you. It was purely innate at that point because I can't paint worth a darn now. So really, like, you don't have to have considered yourself a good artist in the past to start art. Just like you said, because for me, I know I'm not inclined to that, but it's different when I experience chiropractic. When I experience chiropractic, I consume and I divulge and I digest and try to formulate art in the moment, but then also that visualization that you were talking about. So I think it's really important to understand for everybody listening and even for myself is just art doesn't have to be a preconceived thing or a predetermined specialty or gift to start experiencing.
Yeah.
That evolution of art takes place when you get started.
Preach, bro. Preach. And going off that, so the image, I always get a lot of really simple concepts. Like simplicity to me is like kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
I've already kind of mentioned before. You can apply it to so many different things, and when you keep it simple, you can really, embody it a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to flip it to the screen so it's not like super bad, but so that says where that stick man is what we
Yeah.
are, and then that divide, that gap, what we want to be. So kind of goes into that first little point that I said, don't wait until you know who you are
Yeah.
uh, to
For
get
those that
started.
can't see it too, on like an audio version
Yeah,
is it's basically a guy that's on one end of a cliff and there's a gap in between a crevice or something that he has to traverse, and on the other side is basically a canyon, I guess you could say. And on one side it's what you are, and the other side it's what you want to be, right?
yep,
You got to traverse the canyon. You got to take the leap.
yep. You got to send it, you just
You got to send it always.
got to have
Never.
a little bit of faith in yourself and your what you have in your heart.
Right. I like too, real quick, what you talked about with the side projects
Yeah,
and the side pieces is there's a quote
talk
that
about
I
side
read.
pieces, bro.
Side piece. there's a quote that I read that was basically like, if you're working, a basic 9 to 5, and you don't have like a side hobby to come home to, then you're uninspired, right? Like if you just come home and you're not doing much of anything, then there's a lack of inspiration there. So when I think about the side hobbies, those side pieces, projects, you have to have a source of inspiration, right? And that comes along with art thievery. If you have to get inspired, now don't go robbing no banks or anything like that. But if you have to get inspired somehow by seeing others' art, or for me, just I like to experience others' art. So if I get adjusted by somebody, I'm like, dang, like I want to take that and I want to run with it and be inspired by it.
Totally, man. I love that. You almost kind of want to. So, I mean, I guess it can kind of lead into it, but I mean, it's different than like plagiarizing it, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm
in a
pretty
way,
sure
you're
they said you can never plagiarize art.
exactly.
That's what
Well,
my middle school or high school art teacher told us. They're like, you can't copy. She said copy, but I mean, you know what I mean?
totally. Because I mean, nobody's perfect unless you're doing stuff on like computer wise, like as far as art. Like, you're never gonna actually do anything exactly to a T the same as somebody else.
Right.
The big thing comes from like where you're giving credit to, right?
Right.
So I kind of wanted to talk about like good thievery and bad thievery, good theft and bad theft. So,
Definitely.
um, so I'm
The
gonna
dealer's gonna tell us art thieves what's up.
no, you just got to make the distinction, because there are some
Nah,
bad
you're
thieves
good.
out
Yeah.
there. I'm not gonna act like there's not bad thieves out there, but
Right. Definitely.
so the different, like, I'll give a couple parallels. So a good thief will honor the art, and a bad thief
Mm,
will degrade the art.
mm.
So I think that that's something
Oh, wow.
that's pretty powerful, especially for what we do.
Yeah, 100. I mean, instantly my mind goes to people that, not to degrade any professions, people that do similar stuff to what we do, but it's degraded and it's demoralized, or it's diminished in what its power should be,
Totally,
you know?
it's kind of like a violation, right? So
Right. Yeah.
um, I really like that a lot, and there's a lot of power behind having honor in something. It's like
Yeah.
respect, it's dignity. Um,
Mm.
so I really like that.
Yeah.
Another difference between a good thief and a bad thief: a good thief studies, a bad thief skims.
Dang.
Um, I think
Yeah.
that kind of comes from within, where if you really want to embody something, if you really want to make it your own, you study it. You
Yeah.
really, take on the life of whatever it is that you're diving into, because you really want to understand it, and that
Yeah.
bring it about in yourself in your own way. Whereas a bad thief, like, they're doing it for maybe more of like a superficial reason, or they just want to get the gist of it, and then just like that's
Yeah.
it. to where you skim, which there's a time and place for skimming. I'm not gonna act like I haven't skimmed an article before, but like
Right.
when it comes to art, you got to study the art. It's not anything that comes like that. It's something that you're constantly dedicating towards.
Did you ever watch the show White Collar?
Never.
So it's about this guy who's he's an art thief, or more importantly, what do you call it when somebody it's not plagiarism, but he can mimic art very well.
Replicas?
Yeah, he does like replicas very well. But he's an art thief, and he's somebody who knows art in like in its entirety. But also at the same time, like he's a con man and different things like this. And you fall in love with his character because he's really, really good at what he does, right? Like he can dang near replicate anything like Mona Lisa, he knows. But the reason why he's really good at what he does is that he studies like the texture of how the person did the paint strokes, or like left-handed versus right-handed, or he studied, and there's one episode where he like knows the difference between these counterfeit IDs based on like their thickness. So he like studied the actual art itself. If he skimmed, he would have got he would have got caught immediately, right?
Dang, that's fire, bro.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
it's a pretty cool,
pretty
cool show. Yeah.
So I mean, in a way, he kind of had to apply his study to multiple people, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like you could just study one guy, and like get all the art from one person, right? And that kind of leads into the next portion I wanted to talk about. So a good thief steals from many, and a bad thief steals from one. And that's really goes into like really just diversifying and really like being open. Like you got to be open to all forms of art, right? And to really see what resonates. I mean, you can always learn one little thing from literally anybody that walks through your door, or anybody that you meet on the day-to-day basis. You can always, there's going to be stuff that you're ignorant about that they are experts in, right? Or they have a lot of experience in that you don't. And that's a part of the humility where you got to be able to kind of take a step back in your own life or in your own head and say, what can I learn from this person? How can I get something out of what this person's going to provide for me? So.
Yeah. I like that part too, because Dr. O'Malley would always touch on that too, is, he grinded into us just like practicing the steps identical to what he laid out, right? And there was a reason for that, because then when we would go to replicate, it wouldn't get the same outcome, right? So what's your intention when you steal art? Or what's the intention when you are an art thief? It's one, to bring better outcomes, better results for what you're doing. Now, if you steal from one person and you skim and you don't do due diligence to that one person, then you're not going to have the same outcomes. And then you're just going to end up being frustrated. Right. Like you not in there. Like if we rush an adjustment, or if we rush what we do, then sometimes like it's not nearly as much connection, as nearly as much intention or purpose, and then it doesn't feel the same.
No, and doesn't have that impact, that depth, right? To really, to really just get into the nitty gritty, right? Like to just make that ultimate connection with that person, their expression, right? To really connect with their expression.
Right.
Love that, bro.
That's what's up.
The next difference between a good thief and a bad thief, we already kind of talked about it, but a good thief gives credit. A bad thief plays. So we talk about like our mentors and people we're inspired by and people we are, essentially trying to emulate.
Yeah.
Our art.
We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly, dude. And giving credit to those people, like that's how you can take from somebody else's art and make it your own.
Yeah.
But like it's not like, in a way you gotta be humble enough to understand that it's not just you, right? Like of course it's not. Like, I had to give credit to people I met in elementary school, right? Like
Yeah.
I met in elementary school to middle school, high school, my parents, literally everybody you meet in your life. You got to be able to some extent, give credit to them.
Right.
And
Well, you don't. You just lack gratitude in that aspect too, right? Like if
yep.
you are just going about pretending like you're hot stuff and you came up with all this stuff without recognizing where you truly came from, your roots and people that have influenced you, then I think people see through that also. They see that's not genuine and you lack gratitude for where you came from and why you're different, why you're so powerful. So, yeah, I mean, gratitude is a thing, really.
That's
Especially,
it's gonna put on a facade, right? Like you're gonna have a mask on. And
yeah.
I've learned anything this last year, man. People are tired of masks. Take that mask
Nobody
off.
wants wearing a mask anymore.
Right. Another difference between a good thief and a bad thief is a good thief transforms, a bad thief imitates. So that's where you really ingest and you really digest whoever you're stealing from, and you transform that to be part of you. Right? You're not gonna be out there imitating, putting on that fake show that, like, I'm not gonna be, as much as I love him, I'm not gonna be DD. I'm not gonna be BJ. Like I'm gonna transform their principles and their art and transform it to be Nash Stopco, the art dealer, right? Like I'm not gonna imitate them. I'm gonna transform, be a part of their art, right? So
that's powerful. Wow.
And then just the very last one, I think it coincides pretty well too. So a good thief remixes and a bad thief rips off.
Yeah.
So
damn, that's some value right there, though. I mean, like all those points too. If it just really just comes down to what's your entire purpose of it, right? If you're trying to con, steal, rip off people for more gain, more money, then you are a bad thief. You're not going to have your art. But when you study and you try to sit at the feet of masters and then stand on their shoulders by not replicating it, but making it your own and transferring that art so that you can better a patient's life, it's gonna be awe-inspiring, just like good art truly is.
Dude, I love that. And that's like at the bottom line, just really having that Dr. Wade Porto used to always say it's OCD, right? Obsessive chiropractic discipline. So just literally finding how, whatever your art is, for us it's chiropractic, how we can find, chiropractic principles and applications in everything.
Yeah.
Whether
the amount of talks we've had where it's not chiropractic, but the principles.
But it is. It always
in the principle, yeah.
And I feel like that's just how you keep the profession and just whatever you're doing with your art moving forward, and just never being complacent and always having that. We kind of talked about people who don't have hobbies when they come home from that work, having that inspiration or that not lack of inspiration to just constantly developing and constantly just have that on that top of mind awareness of whatever your art is.
Yeah, that's what's up. I want to add something to that too, because you're kind of distinguishing art. And another thing so the character in White Collar, his name's Neil Caffrey. He talks about they're kind of he works with this FBI agent, and they're kind of talking about what exactly is art. Because the FBI agent is arguing that a baseball bat, I think it was by Mickey Mantle, can be considered an art piece. And Neil Caffrey's like, it's not art. Like, art has to have a time, a place, an emotion. And the FBI agent kind of describes that during, I think it was World War I or II, how people would come to the games because they just wanted to forget about war for a second. There was a time, a place, an emotion that took place during his at-bats. So it made it an art piece. And what we do and what anybody else does, like, if you have time, place, and emotion, you're dispensing art. You're dispensing something that, you know,
Fire, bro.
patience. Hey, that's Neil Caffrey, man. I tell you, you gotta watch the show.
I'm gonna snap that one up, man. That one hit. Totally. You know, I especially think about that. It's like a sanctuary, right? Or like a
yeah.
You're getting away from whatever mental, physical war you might be a part of, emotional. And I think we hold a space for that too, for not just like what we're providing, but like our space is art.
Yeah.
In a way. That like.
Yeah. What do you want that vibe to be like as soon as a patient walks in?
Yeah. You know, it's just like you're walking through that barrier, right? Or like through that force field, or like it's a different space, you know.
Yeah.
Different frequency happening when you walk through that space. So
100%. That's what's up. I like all that. So now we defined like what art is, good thief, bad thief, talking about how we, what's another, I guess, transform the art that we acquire.
Yep.
Is maybe a way that we can put that. What's some art, because I know you were talking about the Spine Checkers Manifesto.
Yep.
You want to dive into some of that stuff? Because I know you had some good stuff from that too.
Yeah, I mean, super fire book. I mean,
who wrote it too?
So that's Dr. Jeremy Brook. So he runs the yoga chiropractic seminars, and he used to be part of MLS staff. And he was my first he was the first staff that I took MLS with. So that was like the very first doc that really helped me wake up a little bit more. So and he's got so many things from so many different books and sources that he's stealing art from, that he's giving credit to. So let me just pull up. I have a couple of highlights in here. So
so he's got yoga chiropractic. He's got that's the thing, man. I think what I love why you find that is what I love when you are in school is recognizing these different seminars that get held and the opportunity to take art and transform it from there. Because you and I wouldn't be who we are today without going to those seminars, without diving into how people present their art and waking up to that.
Diving into self-expression, right?
Right. Yeah. Because that's ultimately why they do it, right?
Hell yeah. Like
it's a bigger self-expression for them.
And that's like the most powerful thing that you could ever ask for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you can really, I mean, I just feel like that's the ticket right there, right?
Right.
That's freedom.
True.
You're inside your own body or in your own mind, you have the ability to be free.
Right.
That's the self. So I've literally got so many things, but just to tie it back into art, I think one of the cooler parts is talking about like the sacred geometry of the spine. So, let's see.
That geometry. Yeah, he's pretty big on that, because he has.
I mean, yoga in general, like it. You look at the body, right? Like we know that there's like intellectual design behind everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even down to like subatomic levels, like that's evident from when you look at like through a microscope, looking at like the cell structure or looking at like the atomic structure of matter. But if you look at the big picture, like at galaxies and solar systems and galaxies, they almost look identically the same. Or talking about like the Fibonacci sequence,
right?
Like stuff like that. Like,
what is it when you have like certain sounds and they formulate the patterns?
Yeah, that's a question. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's called though.
I think I want to say it's syntropy, but I might be wrong on that. But that's astounding to me. Like you can play a certain vibration and a physical object will formulate a geometrical design.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Or even when you break it down to like atoms and electrons, protons, like they all have a design about them, right?
Exactly.
And I think that, and I mean, again, I always bring it back to in my world, like scientists still don't know what holds protons together or atoms together, but it's that design from a intelligent creator. In my mind, it's God, it's source, but it's just powerful to think about the spine being the same way. Us as human beings, we're not exempt from that, but we try to disassociate ourselves from that.
We do, which like that's where you really get into like that's where stuff gets messy, right? Like
Right.
anytime you're trying to separate anything that's cohesive and anything that's together, you're gonna lose the part of the whole picture.
Yeah, 100%.
When it comes to health, man, you got to look at everything. You got to be able to have everything be cohesive. One thing, I really wish I had this one quote that I could find in the spine checker. I'm kind of struggling to find. I really probably should have brought it up before. But one thing that I liked, I did find something from Musashi's The Book of Five Rings that I wanted to at least talk about. So it goes like this: no matter how hard you study, if you do not become one with the art you pursue, you can never truly be one with the universe, and the spirit of the thing itself will always elude you. That to me is just like, you got to embody the art, and until you embody it, until you truly like surrender yourself to the art, like, and understanding that mastery is not something that it's not really a destination. It's a journey. So when you're on that journey towards pursuing the art and embodying it, that's something that will fulfill you for the rest of your life. So yeah, Musashi is awesome. I mean, the correlations and like the parallels between, anybody doesn't know, he was one of the greatest swordsmen of all time. So really letting that he calls it the spirit of the thing itself, really embodying the spirit of the thing itself. And for me, that, from chiropractic philosophy, that's innate. So really letting innate come to you and operating on a basis where you're, it's almost kind of like Bluetooth, where you're paired up with your innate, right? Like you are one. BJ always refers to as we.
Mm-hmm.
The dualistic mindset. So having that educated and that innate working side by side, that's when you can really, become the art. So.
Right. I always thought it was funny how he said we, or like he was so connected. And actually, let's talk about that a little bit. How do you feel like you personally connect with your innate more, or have experienced? Because I know we've talked about this before.
Really?
As far as becoming more connected in that sense, so that your art can be better.
Breathwork's awesome, dude. I mean, there's so much awesome, the science in general behind breathwork, right, but also history. And if you want to get into the science of it, I mean, the stimulation of the spinal cord, I mean, that's huge with breathwork. That's amazing. But it really helps me, and yoga helps me a lot too. But I would just say, more than anything, it's kind of my intention on my affirmations every day. So I have one that really helps me kind of ground myself physically and mentally, that I say that universal and innate intelligence flow through me. And when I think about that, I mean, universal, that's everywhere. So that can be the ground that I'm standing on, and the ground reaction forces coming into my body and perceiving like helps me just really like, it's everywhere. Like I'm not, I don't need one certain type of universal force to flow through me. And that helped me kind of get out of my educated brain of knowing that innate is flowing as well. And obviously the confidence that I'm getting checked, that I have, innate has the ability to communicate. So yeah,
I think for me, I think the most the best way, other than those two, obviously, that you said, because those ones are huge, especially breathwork. I know we talk about that a lot, but one thing that I really got used to doing, and I don't really remember when I started, was just like, if I ever had a thought, THOT. If I ever had a thought that came through and I wrote it down immediately, or like I was like, I need to get this out, because if I don't, I'll forget and let the moment pass. And I'm pretty sure BJ talks about it, but maybe it was more Sigafus too. But just like getting that out so that I can be more connected, and he goes into it more, but the more you do it, the more thought flashes are going to come. The more those type of thinking will produce itself to get you connected with innate, to get you to more as one of innate brain instead of educated brain. Because your educated brain will always be like, oh, I'll try to remember it later.
Totally.
Right. I mean, it's still a struggle sometimes, but like I'll keep there'll be times when I'll wake up at like 2 a.m. I'll be thinking about something, I'll write it in my notes, and Chantel's like, why are you on your phone? Like, because I'm writing that note down, because if I don't, I'll forget, but B, I don't want to disconnect from what I've built to this point too.
Yeah, and when you're sleeping, man, there's like very little static on that wire, bro. So you're very,
that super conscious takes over, man.
Heck yeah, man. Super conscious takes over, and
no such thing as subconscious in this room.
not that I'm aware of. I don't know how to send 1 million messages per second. I know that.
I know, that's what
I have trouble sending text messages per hour. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else, other ways that I connect with innate. The affirmations are honestly huge.
They are to me. I wouldn't bring them up.
I know we touched on that last one too, but like, I can't speak enough to how revolutionary that is to your own being.
And whatever you do, like literally from athletics to just like your day-to-day life to anything you have intention on doing, like having an affirmation set, it's just going to make it that much more enjoyable and a lot less stressful for you if you have an affirmation set.
Right. That's for dang sure.
Yeah, bro.
What do you, as an art dealer, right? What do you feel like has been the biggest cultivation of your art? Or I guess I should say transformation, because we talked about that before, but what do you think has been the biggest transformation for you in that, to producing your own art?
The biggest cultivation, that's really good. Probably conversation has been pretty huge, as far as just like exponentially helping me cultivate it, as far as like bringing together multiple different types of art in a way that I can talk about it and really understand, like not just my thought process, but a lot of other people's interpretations of the art has helped me a ton. But probably my training, just literally training. And I know that like when I train, it's not anything that like, like repetition, getting so many reps in to where I'm doing it without a thought, right? Like to where I don't have to think about what I'm doing, right? Or like I'm embodying it. Like that has been such a positive thing for my art, to where I can have the confidence to like, obviously, you're going to notice what you feel, but in a way that you need to tailor it to every person in front of you. And that's the beauty of like the training aspect, where it really allows you to transform your art to every person. So it's not just cookie cutter application. There is no exact line to your art, right? Like there's certain marks that like once you practice the mechanics, right, that like that will, that you need to essentially embody that to the point where I guess that's where I've noticed the most that it's allowed me to really develop it and transform it to my own.
Right. That's tough. I think just thinking back, because in school, obviously being associated with KTC a lot of times too is not only you train to strike and you visualize, but also your art starts in chiropractic. Your art starts when the person's on the table and you're just noticing what you notice.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when I transfer my art to noticing what I notice in a patient, not only have I done my strikes, I've sat at the seat of masters to learn a specific art, but then I transform to recognize, okay, is this person ready to connect? Is this person ready to receive the adjustment the art that I want to give them, right? Because, and I think we talked about this, one thing that like I feel like I've always had a better adjustment. Like I've always produced a better adjustment for somebody. And I know it sounds weird, but in KTC, and I'm sure at MLS, right, you just stand at the foot of the table and you notice what you notice. You just take a second to recenter. I always would visualize like this wave going out towards the patient, like almost like just like a wave of a seashore, a ripple from a stone. It would go out towards the patient, and I would visualize it coming back. And I can't explain it because sometimes like I would send a wave out and it wouldn't go. So then I was like, okay, I'm not gonna like approach the table right now until I visualized it coming back. And once that ripple came back, then I was able to transform my art from what I knew my innate could produce. And then I was always able to facilitate a better adjustment.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a really cool visual and a really good mental exercise.
Yeah. I know it's made a world of difference. And I know it sounds weird too. It sounds silly sometimes, but.
No, bro, I don't think it sounds silly at all. I think I mentioned last time too that like your heart's got the largest density of like electromagnetic frequencies in your entire body.
Yeah.
Having that ability before you approach or even lay hands on anybody where you're just grounding yourself, centering yourself, and opening up your heart to that person as a way for you to essentially, what it sounds like to me is like you're visualizing those waves, right? Those heart waves, those waves of connection to where you're sending them out, but you're also receiving them. And that makes their system, whether they don't know it or not or realize it, more open, more able to receive.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. And
I haven't honed it in yet or probably ever really talked to anybody about it besides you, so I'm still trying to figure it out now.
Yeah.
All I know is that I feel better about my adjustments and the patients get up and they're like, whoa.
One thing that I try to do is I try to think of some memory that puts me in a state where like, I just try to visually like either imagine or like think about somebody that I love unconditionally or a moment in my life where I was just like experiencing unconditional love. And one of those moments was back last 2019 May.
Yeah.
My grandfather was in the hospital. This was probably like a few days before he passed, and I was fortunate enough to be able to see him in the hospital and just like spend as much time with him while he was still around. And just seeing my grandma with him, who they've been married for 50 years plus, I think.
Yeah.
And seeing them just interact with me in the room and seeing like that type of love at that stage was just something that was like super powerful and something that like I'll never forget. But having that memory is just, I don't know, probably one of my greatest weapons, or like weapons, probably not the right word, but one of my greatest assets and tools.
Right. You've already experienced that, so you know how to.
It was just like a whole nother level.
Create that presence around you. It's that
eternal, right? It was like an eternal type of like. Until you get to that point, I feel like you just never really can truly understand how that would feel. So that's definitely something that I use to cultivate my art too.
And like you said earlier, that's something that you have to recognize where it comes from, and that gratitude from where it comes from to be able to to present it better.
Yeah.
Dang. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, bro. The art dealer and art thief.
At it again, but only good art thieves here, y'all. Did you have any other sources that you wanted to divulge?
I didn't. I mean, I know I'm gonna get more into referencing Book of Five Rings.
Yeah.
You and I both got plenty of books. I'm going through the Body Electric right now, which is
Yeah.
very cool. I found some. I mean, I've already read some really cool stuff from that book, and I know we've talked about talking. You're going through some like training methods, what I'm doing, what you're doing, how we're training our art, how we're training ourselves to be able to facilitate. So I think we got plenty to talk about. But as far as art goes, bro, I mean, we can talk about it all day, right? But I think
That's true. Yeah.
those are the bullet points that I had written down that I really wanted to cover.
Sweet. Any last thoughts to present to our listeners about their art?
Hey, get started today, man. Take
Nice.
make an intention to set some time aside to really develop and work on your own art. And whether that be, drawing something that means something to you, like revolving around your art, visualizing an atlas and drawing an atlas in your own art, that could be, I mean, the applications are endless, right? I mean, if that means taking time to do some breath work and try to visualize something in your mind.
Right. That's really cool.
Time aside, right? So.
Yeah, that definitely is true. I think I always envision there's a moment where I wasn't mad, but just like you create that emotion to where like, you and I both know, and it's similar to athletics, is like you want to be the best. You want to be the absolute best you can. So like I had this moment where I was doing strikes, but I was just like, I wasn't angry, but it was just like a lot of emotion behind it and different things like that. So I think a lot of times you have to cultivate that emotion too. It's like, okay, do I want to be the best? Do I want to be inspired to have intention, connection, and purpose, and creating that emotion within yourself to be able to produce an atmosphere where you can practice your art and transform your art by yourself. You don't always need somebody there, right? As much as I love to align a spine that's on my table, right? If I didn't have those times,
have somebody there and train.
Right. If I didn't have those times where I was by myself to think through it and to transform it and to recognize, okay, this is what I want it to look like. This is what I want it to feel like. And two, like it created a standard for myself.
Yeah.
If in my head, every adjustment that I had struck was like, yeah, this is what I want it to exactly feel like flowing through my hands, then that's what I want to get to. So you have that standard. Because we talked about that a little bit ago too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But that's just my closing thoughts. But guys, art dealer and the art thief, man, I freaking love art, guys. I hope you guys too. I hope you guys are experiencing daily art and again, it doesn't have to be just chiropractic, but obviously
a little biased.
So with that being said, guys, go get some art in today, every day, and divulge. Steal some, but be a good one, and then deal it out to those that you love, which should be all of your patients.
Yes, sir. Beautiful said, Gates.
Thanks, DC Nash D.
Yeah, get a fresh slice of that art pie, man.
Heck yeah, I'm always down for that.
All right, y'all. Until next time, right?
Yes, sir. Next episode, we'll be talking about one of the other two legs of the stool.
Science or philosophy? Probably science. I think we can get a little bit of science, right?
Yeah. It's a nice little breakup because we talked about philosophy last time. So let's do science. That sounds good to me.
All righty.
Choose your destiny.